My name is Nick, and welcome to my channel, where I like to talk about scary stuff. Scream 2022, or as I've decided we should already start calling it, Scream 5, is the latest installment in one of my favorite horror franchises ever. Sydney, Dewey, and Gale are all back for another face-off against Ghostface when a slew of murders begin happening again in Woodsboro. It's the new Scream movie! I mean, what more do you need to know, right? In case you don't want to know a whole lot, I will say right off the bat, this will be a spoiler-free review, because I truly feel for everyone who cannot see this movie right now if your theaters are closed. That sucks. Oh my god, do not have this movie spoiled for you, because you are going to want to experience it for yourself. That being said, I will be using some trailer footage and production stills, so if you have stayed away from everything and you don't even want to hear vague thoughts about a ghost face or kills or anything, then just stay away. Go see this movie as soon as possible, because the number one thing that I gotta say is this movie's good. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I do have my issues. Most of my problems with this movie I obviously cannot get into in this video, so I will be doing a full spoiler review to talk about everything about this movie. I have to talk about everything, but because I have so much to say about it, I think I can give you my overall thoughts without getting into any details. First of all, I just have to say, this being the first Scream film in over 10 years, the first not to be directed by Wes Craven, it totally feels like a Scream film. And that, I think, alone is more than we could ask for. The fact that this fits right along with the franchise is amazing. For all of my faults with this film, I really have to give it up for directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette for pulling this off. I mean, the script they're working with, I have some notes, but the way that they were able to pull off the feel of a Scream film without feeling like they were trying too hard to be Wes Craven, I mean, I can't thank him enough. Let's talk about our favorite people of all time, the Scream family, the legacy characters. And I do want to say that for all of them, I feel like they aren't in the movie enough for me. The newer characters definitely take center stage. I wouldn't say our favorites are sidelined, but I could have used a lot more of them. Sidney Prescott is one of the best heroines in the history of horror, and Neve Campbell never fails to deliver in the role. Sidney is now in the regal phase of her role as Final Girl, and it's really nice to see her continue where she left off in 4, where she's a very take charge and kick-ass character. She is the predator, not the prey. Then we have Gale Weathers, truly my favorite character of all time, like in anything, like horror, not, I don't care. Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers is iconic. I mean, she's just amazing. I could not get enough Gale in this movie. Like, give me a Gale TV series to show me everything she's been up to between Scream 4 and 5. She does have the best line in the movie, in my opinion, and she also had some of the more emotional stuff. I mean, I don't want to get too specific, but I'll just say there is a bit of a reunion between our legacy characters, you know, in the film, and I have to say it was both good and bad. There was like a lot of information that they were trying to stuff into the scene, but at the same time, because of everything that has been built up with us as audience members and these characters, that scene brought me to tears. Like, I truly teared up. I really did get emotional watching this movie. And I'm really surprised. I mean, a horror film, like, just as much as I love them, they generally don't get that kind of emotion out of me. It was just a lot, but honestly in the best way. This brings us to Dewey, and I have to say, Dewey has not always been my favorite of the legacy characters. I've always felt he was, like, the most disposable, because he's always getting stabbed and shit. And I'm sure you're thinking, no, Dewey's the heart of this franchise. And to that I say, I agree. This is 100% David Arquette's role, and I don't think he's ever been better as Dewey, to be perfectly honest. I think this is my favorite Dewey. There is such depth to his character at this point in the franchise after everything he's been through. Plus, he has probably the most to do of the legacy characters, so it was really nice to see Dewey get to shine. Like, you know how I would say the first 4 movies, it's like, 1 is Sydney's movie, 2 is Gale's movie, 3 is Sydney's movie, 4 is Gale's movie, 5 is 100% Dewey's movie. Now let's get into our new characters, I guess. Most of my enjoyment comes from the interactions between the legacy characters, but the majority of the film focuses on these lifeless assholes. Some of you may think it's unfair to compare this to the rest of the franchise, but How can we not? I have to say I'm a little disappointed because Scream has always been known for having such solid characters. Even just the supporting or side characters. When Sarah Michelle Gellar pops up for 7 minutes, it doesn't matter because we're still rooting for her. And these new people don't entirely suck, but there are a couple of them that are essentially non-characters. Like, you could easily cut them out of the movie if we didn't want to see them get cut up. Our new lead in the film is Sam, played by Melissa Barrera, and she has a lot of weight to shoulder in this movie. There is a development very early on that sets up the entire plot progression for the whole film, and it's all resting on Sam's shoulders. And it's just a lot of material for one person, and ultimately it comes off as uneven to me. I'll get more into the newer characters when I can actually talk about them, but just to give you some standouts, I really appreciated Jack Quaid as Richie. He brought some much needed laughs to this film. My absolute favorite is Jasmine Savoy Brown as Mindy. She makes me smile. She's so good. I'm just so loving her. I cannot wait to talk about her more. And I can't not point out Jenna Ortega as Tara, because she does such a good job of selling being scared, which is so important for her role. And I mean, we just get so used to seeing horror film after horror film, and a lot of performances honestly seem to be doing this very generic, oh no, help me, I'm scared kind of performance. When you see someone with Jenna Ortega's talent step into a movie like Scream 5 and really bring it, it kind of just shows you how many other horror films aren't doing it right. Now is the time when I say click off if you don't even want to hear my vague thoughts that could allude to anything regarding Ghostface, kills, scares, all of the fun horror stuff. Because I basically just have to say that I'm disappointed in all of that, to be perfectly frank. I mean, it's a horror film. Sure, I just love to see Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette, but at the same time, I'm also hoping for some scary sequences, maybe even a couple good jump scares, and at least one decent kill. And I've heard a lot of people say that this movie is very brutal and bloody, and it is. However, it's a little bit lacking for me. I will say on first watch that it did get me sucked into the tension, and I was very in the moment looking around going like, oh my god, is Ghostface around the corner? Is he in the scene? Where is Ghostface? But I do have to say that after first viewing, I've seen it twice, so on second viewing, going to rewatch, there really isn't a whole lot that I would return to this movie for. I mean, I just binged all of the other 4 movies like multiple times actually before seeing this new one, and there is so much to all of them. There are so many great sequences in them, even if they're very suspenseful, like in 2 when Sydney and Hallie are in the car. I think that's still a really great sequence, even knowing how it's gonna play out. Having sat through Scream 5 for a second time, there's really nothing that's like fun. I'll get into it more in the spoilers, of course, but I just have to say, I kind of think the ball was dropped in this department. The last thing that I want to talk about is the way that this movie comments on the horror genre as it is today and for what it's doing. It talks about really all franchises, really, and what we see with lots of franchises, from Halloween to Star Wars to Ghostbusters. Scream 5 is essentially pulling one of those. And the unfortunate thing that I have to say is that I think this movie just gets too meta. It's too meta for me. There is so much of trying to recapture the original in a way that just has me going, but why? Like, we've already done that. Like, don't fall into the same traps that the Halloween franchise did. Just keep moving, move forward. You want to do new things with new characters? Give me new. Don't give me new. And then also keep yourself handcuffed to the past in a way that we frankly don't need to be. I think it ultimately does a disservice to this film. And also, it ends up falling into its own trap. Now, we've seen in plenty of Scream films how they play with genre tropes and they kind of call out the trope and then kind of fall into it. However, think in the original Scream, when Sydney talks about, women in horror films running upstairs when they should be going out the front door, and then she does it once she's attacked. But then we see Sydney going upstairs, and we see how resourceful she is, kind of getting out of that trope. So much of Scream 5 was just doing the trope and then calling it out. And it's like, that's not really clever, bro. Like, it's been 25 years since this started. We now live in a very meta world. And it's really just doing the thing and then saying, ha, see, we know we're doing the thing. And it's like, yeah, but we know you're doing the thing. You're supposed to be more clever than that. Honestly, it's really great to see Scream back on the big screen. I've seen it twice. I'll probably see this a couple more times, to be perfectly honest. Even though I do have some serious problems, mostly with the story in this film. And also, I have to talk about this. Just like general logic in this movie is a little bit off, even for a horror film. Like for a Scream film, there's just stuff going where you're like, really, these characters are supposed to be smart. You're spending all this time talking about how smart these characters are until they're actually in the face of danger, and then they're typical horror movie characters. It's a bit of a bummer, and I do have my issues. But at the end of the day, I have to say, it is so good to say that we don't have a bad Scream movie. This might be my least favorite one, but still, it's pretty good. As for the concept, I'm going to give Scream 5 a 2.5 out of 5. It's a slasher, it's what I want, but the franchise isn't taken in a new direction that I'm in love with. As for the execution, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I give the filmmakers a lot of credit for recreating the magic that made Wes Craven's films so memorable, but I have to be honest in saying there is some bad shit in here that is like a mid-2000s direct-to-DVD level bad. And for the entertainment value, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It doesn't quite nail the horror elements in a way that'll have me returning to it for specific scenes alone, but the material between our legacy characters is enough to make it into the annual Scream marathon for me. For my personal grade, I'm going to give Scream 5 a 3.5 out of 5. While it makes some unforgivable mistakes, this is without a doubt a true Scream film through and through. What did you guys think of the latest Scream movie? I feel everyone either likes or dislikes this movie for very different reasons, and there's so much to talk about. We are just barely scraping the surface, so let me know what you want to talk about in the spoiler review. I'm even thinking about doing just like a live stream, just so we can like talk about this, because this is an event. It's so fun to have like a big horror event, and also one of my favorite franchises, to see it come back and to see it not entirely suck. I'm not gonna lie, on first watch, I was much more negative than I am now after seeing it a second time, but still, there are a lot of issues that I really want to talk about, so we'll get into that. I'm also thinking that I should honestly just review the entire Scream franchise at this point. Like, why haven't I? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Sorry this was a bit late, but you know how life goes. If you're not already, feel free to follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd for more movie recommendations. That's it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.